Hey everyone, my name is Hassan. I'm with Flight Club, and for those of you that didn't participate, I won the best hair competition with Matt. So I'm hosting this week's Go Live with Hugo. Hugo is a flight instructor, and he's just about to join us now. So Hugo, if you could just request to go live with us, we'll bring you on board, and we can have a quick conversation. So before Hugo joins us, his outfit is called "Come Fly with Me." They're a flight instruction outfit based out of Victoria, BC, and we are going to be talking to him about flight training. And if you guys have questions as they come up throughout the chat, feel free to message them, and we'll be happy to address them as they come up. You'll be happy to know I have a team of many people behind me on online that will support and make sure I get to your questions. So, if you're having issues, Hugo, you're gonna request at the bottom, request to go live with us, and then you can join us. And I figured as a backup, if I have to, I can start singing some Frank Sinatra. But my hope was that I could put that to you. Yeah, it's been an interesting week. While we wait for Hugo here to join us here and request to go live, we may potentially have a solution in the works for a bit of a complex insurance situation, as you guys can imagine. We are seeing some flights go on the Cessna 340 that's listed on our platform. We are going to be onboarding our first tech intern as of Tuesday, and we're actually doing a pitch for some startup funds shortly. So our deck is ready. If anybody's interested, let us know. We'll be happy to share it with you and to provide you the presentation. And there's Hugo. Hugo says bonjour, bonjour à tous. Aussi, je peux parler en français. Hugo, if you could just select to go live, let me see if I can figure this out here. Maybe I can. There's a way that I can. Oh, here. I could have done that all along. Look at that. It is a tech startup after. Oh, there you go. How are you?
I'm good. You?
Good. Did you enjoy the little presentation I did while we waited?
Yeah, I did actually. Let me just adjust the volume here. It's kind of weird with the. Can you hear me
The
well?
headphone? Yes, but your audio is excellent.
Okay, good.
So, thank you so much for joining us. You are based in lovely Victoria, British Columbia.
That's correct.
And based on me being on the other side of the ocean or the strait, you guys had a lovely day, I hope.
Yeah, it's very sunny here. It's just perfect day for flying actually.
Did you go flying today?
No, not today, but it's been like this for days and days, and there was
Yeah.
lots of flying to do.
Awesome, awesome. So I guess we'll start. Maybe you want to give our viewers a quick introduction of what you do, how you got there. We can go from there.
So what I do is after a few years, so I'm a flight instructor, freelance flight instructor now. Let me remove this one because I can hear myself. It's very weird. Um, I've been a freelance flight instructor for a few years. It was a late career for me. I started back in 2012. Um, I worked for a few flight schools between the East Coast and the West Coast here. These people worked in Quebec, where I did my licenses. Actually, I worked in New Brunswick, sorry, and I worked here in British Columbia. And finally, I decided a few months ago actually to go freelance. So I'm doing
Awesome.
freelance instruction now in Victoria.
And so you've created a website. It's called Come Fly with Me,
That's correct.
and it's got tons of resources on it that anybody who's either flight training or is interested to learn about flight training or is an experienced pilot could use.
Yeah, I thought it was as a freelance instructor. I thought it was important for me to provide with all the resources that students need. Of course, as a freelance instructor, you don't have the same means as flight schools. Flight schools are whole structures, and they have all sorts of means for the students. We don't have that as flight instructors, right? So, but a website was the perfect actually medium to provide with all the resources that are necessary for studying and going to the tests.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
lots of resources with um, basically the resources are actually organized in stages. Like if you're planning on doing what you're going to need if you're planning on being a student pilot student, what you're going to need if you're already a student, what you're going to need if you're getting close to solo, etc., etc., with a P star and everything.
Well, you're
Uh,
gonna need a raincoat if you're gonna get close to solo. That's for sure.
yeah, that's right. So
For those of you who don't know on the call and who might not be pilots, the tradition is that when you solo, you get a bucket of water dumped on your back, and so that's why it's really important to have
that's right.
a raincoat around when you're getting close to that solo stage. Sorry to interrupt you.
So yeah, I tried to put as many resources as possible. Um, uh, Not everything is there yet. The most important is all the links and all resources, files, documents that are necessary for the training for now. And there's going to be
Awesome.
more. There's going to be more coming up, like
Cool.
quizzes, little games for studying. To make study even
Do
more funny, more
you have
fun and interesting.
anything coming out for the cars? Because the Canadian aviation regulations are a bit
So
dense.
what I'm thinking about the cars right now, cars is a very tough one because it's always, I mean, for someone like you who's also a lawyer, and I assume it's not a problem, but for guys who are not used to that kind of language,
Yes. Yes.
it's nice to be able to have something that makes it a little more that how should I phrase that, digestible, you know? So I'm actually
Give me
thinking.
columns of do's and don'ts, and then you can have it's very clear. You can do this and you can't do that, and then maybe section numbers because unless somebody's dealing with me or Transport Canada, you don't actually need the section numbers. But
Yeah, and
you can.
basically the point would be to make it way more simple than it is right now.
It is right now. So, okay, for those who have just joined us, we're just chatting with Hugo. If you have any questions about flight training, he's your guy to ask. So, let me ask you a couple of questions. What kinds of aircraft do you generally flight train in?
Most of the time, it's going to be on the Cessna 172. Uh,
Okay,
I've had to do training on PA-28 as well. I do have a multi-engine rating, but I don't have much time on it right now, so haven't done much multi-engine for now. Yeah, most of the time it's going to be Cessna 172. Uh, there's another reason why it's mostly 172. I can hardly do 152 unless we really reduce the amount of fuel to a minimum. I'm a big guy, so so
yeah,
we have to work around the weight and balance. And the 172 is actually for now has been the best aircraft,
awesome,
considering my
awesome.
my weight.
I did a lot of my flight training on the 172. Okay, so what's your favorite part about flight training? If you could summarize it for us.
Well, I could make it as short and easy and say, well, the flying, of course. But it's not. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's probably my favorite part. But what I like about the instruction is the teaching part, and I would say the psychological part of the teaching and the learning. I was not an easy student, I think, when I was a student. I started very late. I was 43. So I had a whole background with me, and I do think that teaching an old monkey like me is just not the same as teaching a young student. So
Right.
I do have the empathy, I think, that every instructor needs to lead someone, to mentor someone. I do have the ability to recognize when a student is struggling, and some students are very good at hiding it. I was one of them. So yeah, the whole psychological side of instruction is one that really interests me, and
Awesome.
the relationship with the student, of course, that comes with it.
What's so in my flight training experience, there were many times where when things happened and when flight instructors did things like I'm coming off onto the taxiway and I go for the radios, and next thing I know, there's a very hard concussive force on my right hand because I'm gonna touch the radios. I'm not even off the active runway. Do you have a funny story that you could share with us in your flight training that you've had, either for yourself or that you've been the instructor on?
Funny story.
Preferably don't mention any names, unless you
No,
want to
of
involve
course.
me as your lawyer later on. That's fine. But
I could actually, I would actually tell you a story from, but that was before I was a freelance. And it was not that
yeah,
long ago. Actually, it was like a year and a half ago, and I was working for a small flight school here around here, and um, the aircraft was not in super condition, I would say, and the rail of the instructor side on the rail of the seat was actually
the
worn
secret.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, and I knew that since I started. I mentioned it several times, and they never did anything. Anyway, but I was used to it, and usually the seat would move in the initial climb. So
yes.
I could expect it every time it would happen, and I was ready for that. So I would grab the dashboard, of course, and would keep my seat from moving backwards. But one day, as I was doing a fan flight, or first flight from the student, young kid, sorry, 19 years old, so very young, not used to flying yet. He had never flown in a small aircraft. We line up. I accelerate full power. Well, actually, I he did it because I was kind of coaching him. Full power, and no, I was having the control this time. I was having all control. Full power, and after a while, actually, my seat moves backward. As I said a moment
And
ago, I'm a big guy.
I'll stop you here for a second. For those of you who are not pilots on this call who are watching live, what happens is when your seat goes back and you're flying the aircraft, you pull the control column back with you, and that makes the aircraft want to do this. Except you're not flying a fighter jet where you can just do this, and so the airplane goes like this and it falls to the ground. So that's the
But
danger.
and in fact, the consequence is not just that you pull back the control column, but your weight actually changes the center of
Correct.
gravity of the aircraft, right? And it makes the aircraft more prone to take off. The problem is doing so as you take off. At that point, still on the ground and not fast enough, you're in slow flight. So you're off the ground, but you're still in slow flight, which means if you keep climbing, there's a big chance that you'll still be in slow flight and you're gonna crash. You're gonna stall, right? So
Yeah.
there I am. My seat just moved backwards, and I'm just like this, trying to grab the control column with my hands, and I can just touch it with my
Your
fingertip.
fingers. Yeah.
And same with my feet. I'm not touching the pedals anymore, and and I'm thinking, okay, that's a tough one. And I just look at the student and I said, don't worry, we're gonna be good. And he believed me. Actually, he said, okay, yeah, no problem. I know. Okay, so I don't remember exactly how I could make it work, but one thing I knew is I had two options: getting back to the ground, putting that aircraft back to the ground, or keeping a way, finding a way to keep climbing safely. My thought was, if I try to put that aircraft back to the ground, it's going to be messy,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Right.
So it would be it would be better for me to be able to have full power, really full power, and make sure that aircraft can. And the best way was to just get the cruise attitude back, to just accelerate
Yeah.
until the aircraft was able to go back up. I don't remember how I made it work, to be honest, because there was so much stress and so much going on. I just can't remember exactly. And the thing is, for me to move back with the seat was a tough one. I'm big. I don't have much space in the cockpit, so it was kind of a tough one. Anyway, I don't remember how it worked, but it did work. And in final,
Well,
we kept climbing.
it's like thankful for the the amount of experience that you have, that flight was uneventful otherwise, and now you have a pleasant story to share with the rest of us.
But I'm pretty sure
So
it was. I'm pretty sure it was kind of ugly to see from outside, because after the flight, I had to go to the flying club next to the flight school, and I had to fuel up the aircraft. And of course, there were a whole bunch of old pilots, old guys there. And the first thing they said when I entered the flight club was, What was that? At 9 o'clock. So I'm pretty sure, yeah, it was kind of ugly to see, and the aircraft was probably going up and down. And
Right. Right. Yeah, I've seen and probably had my fair share of ugly departures and approaches. So I can't hold a candle to a flight instructor. That's for sure. So for those of you who are just joining us, if anybody has any questions um, about flight training, here's yeah. So somebody's just saying, so the great story. Some of the aircraft at the flight school that he's at or she's at has the same issues as well. So
but I
uh,
learned something from that situation actually. I never wanted to be just because I it always happened in the initial climb, and I could expect it, and I knew it. I mentioned it like two, three times. They never did anything, but I should have insisted. And
yeah,
the thing is that flight school was using temporary journey logbook. So I wrote down on the journey logbook, but I realized later that it was never actually written on the real one. You know what I
right,
mean? So
right.
yeah, I should have insisted on that because that day could have been a very bad day for both of us.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Thankfully, that wasn't how it ended up. What made you want to choose "Come Fly with Me" as the slogan? Are you a fan of Frank Sinatra?
Not at all. I know the song. I don't know how it came to my mind. It was just I don't know. Maybe subconsciously, I do usually have a very nice relationship with my students. I think they like flying with me, so it's it was just natural to me. I never thought about something else. I didn't even have to think about it. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
I was hoping you were a big fan of Frank Sinatra. I'm a huge fan of Frank Sinatra, and I was gonna see if you could sing us a little bit of Frank Sinatra. But
Oh,
um,
I know the song. Come fly with
let
me.
let let
Oh yeah, sure, of
let's
course.
have a go at it. We'll do a duet. Let's just have some fun with this. Okay, ready?
I
Three.
don't know the whole song. I just know that sentence. Actually, that's the problem.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
The guy who lost to me on the hair competition, Matt, my co-founder, wants me to sing for everyone. Matt, if you had won, then maybe you could ask those things. But clearly, I have the better hair. Just to make things fun, Hugo, we had a competition out there, and we had our followers vote for who had the better hair, and then that person was going to do
I
the
see. Okay.
contest. But you know what? I'm going to indulge him. I'll do one little segment of the song if that's okay with you.
Uh-huh, sure.
I'm gonna give just a little bit more color to your already beautiful website and social media presence. So,
Uh-huh.
come fly with me, come fly, let's fly away. If you can use some exotic booze, there's a bar in far Bombay. Come fly with me, let's fly away. Well, thank you, Hugo. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. Um, we love having you. We think your presence, your resources is wonderful for the general aviation community. Even those who already have their licenses may want to
Oh yeah.
brush up on some things here or there. And we hope to be able to partner with you as we get aircraft or a few aircraft listed in the Victoria area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Aircraft owners are obviously going to need to get the check rides done on their aircraft. Maybe they don't feel comfortable. Maybe they'd rather defer to an expert like yourself to make sure that they're entrusting their baby with someone that would be capable of operating it and be a good airman or air person. So we look forward to working with you and thank you for your time. Any questions for us, me at Flight Club or anyone else?
I don't have
Oh,
any,
there's
but it was fun to talk to you guys.
there's one question that just popped up here. If you have one recommendation for someone who is just about to complete their flight test, what would that be? And I'm curious to know what level of flight test. Is it a PPL, CPL, multi IFR? What kind of flight test are we talking about here?
Well,
Let's see if we can get.
I think it would be for any kind of flight testing. Yeah, but it
Okay, go
would be
ahead.
nice to know. Um, when I talk to my students, I try to I know the amount of stress that usually students have, and I was a very stressed out student, so I know what I'm talking about. Um, Two things, of course, being prepared, studying, that makes sense. But the other thing is sometimes you can be super prepared, you can have studied a lot, but if you have that nature of someone who's not confident, who's in doubt all the time, you can be prepared as much as you could. You might get yourself into trouble anyway. So there's one way actually to make it work is, beside being prepared and having studied, the in the previous 2 days, try to visualize the flight. You know, if you follow the flight test guide, you know what you're going to be doing. So do the flight test in your mind. Take a moment when you go to bed, before you go to sleep. Take a moment to visualize the flight, all the actions you're going to be doing. I swear that visualization helps a lot because it already puts you in the situation. So if you start doing that like 2 days before the flight, and emphasize one day before the flight, the previous night, it's a very
emphasize before the flight.
Yeah.
And so visualize. Okay, that's where we got it, and then you will have a better test flight.
Yeah, because it puts you in the situation already.
So I can agree with that in the sense that when we were flight training, they put us into the water egress situation, but they did it inside a pool. And the rationale from a pedagogical perspective was, you're doing this in a controlled environment where nothing bad can happen to you and there's all these lifeguards. Then when you're in a situation, when you're in a challenging situation, a stressful situation, your aircraft is upside down in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, you still revert back to that controlled moment where you had this experience in the first place. And so I guess by analogy, that would be the same thing, is if you're able to take control of this experience even before you get there, you're able to better perform in that situation and really be the master of it, as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah. The other thing is,
Cool.
the other thing about the flight test is don't consider that the examiner is there to fail you. They don't like that. As long as you can show that you studied and you know what you're doing, meaning the boss in the cockpit. Okay. They'll respect you, and everything will go right.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that advice, and it was for a private pilot's license, so that's probably the most critical. And from there, you start building a lot of confidence in your flight training, with your flying abilities and airmanship. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to everybody who's been alive on this. This will be posted to our Instagram TV account, so you're going to be famous if you aren't already, which I think.
Oh my god.
and we look forward to collaborating with you in the future, and maybe we'll check in with you at some time later and see if hopefully you have some interesting stories, but nothing too scary.
Yep. I have a couple more scary ones if you want.
Okay, we'll leave those for another day. Thanks so much for your time, Hugo. You take care.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Bye. Bye-bye.